What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Uh, I've been pretty inconsistent with my uploads, but promise to start being more consistent from next week. So today we're doing another standard tier list video, as you can see from the title and thumbnail. Today we're going to be ranking the most effective martial arts slash combat sports that are going to turn you into an absolute badass. In real life situations, street fighting, whatever, like throwing hands basically. Um, because let's be honest, that's the reason why 99% of us train. Okay. Uh, as you can see, I've got 5 tiers for this video, starting with the punching bag tier. So this is the bottom tier for this video. That trash tier, the E tier, D tier. This is where all the bad arts are gonna go. So if you train one of these, chances are that you're an absolute knob, and you're like you are a punching bag. Like if you try to use some of these arts on an opponent, then it's actually going to help you in getting your ass kicked, and instead of you kicking the opponent's ass, if that makes any sense. So if you train one of these, then you're screwed. Then we've got normies. So normie tier is literally the average person. Um, like you fight like an average person. Whatever art you trained in, it doesn't really have that much of an impact on your fighting abilities necessarily. Not much else to be said here. Uh, it's still a bad tier in my opinion, because if you're going to train in martial art, then you want to at least be able to defend yourself. But normies can't really defend themselves. So on to the next tier, competent fighter. So now you're starting to get good. These arts are reasonably good, I'd say. Um, if you train one of these, you're probably more capable than the average person. Nothing exceptional or special, but you're a good fighter, like decent. You can throw hands with a couple of guys and knock some people down. You're okay. You're above average, but nothing special. Now we're coming to the good ones. So combat monster, combat monster. Um, so you're like these arts are gonna turn you into a really good fighter, right? So you can go semi-pro or pro in one of these, become an amateur in one of these maybe. You're gonna be a really good fighter. Like regardless of what situation you're in, um, you'll be an absolute beast, and these are going to be very effective, very brutal, for sure. However, they're not the creme de la creme because they might have a few flaws. Maybe they're missing some elements, and that's why they weren't able to make it into the next tier, the ultimate tier, the God of War. So, any art that in this tier, in this row here, man, if you do one of these, you're probably an absolute monster. And if you're really good at it, and you're like you're an absolute fighting machine. Um, And if you train and get really good in one of these arts, and then as the tier describes you, you're literally going to turn into a god of war. So obviously now it's not about how effective martial art is necessarily, but it's more to do with the fighter, right? But you get my point. Some martial arts are objectively better for fighting than others, right? And that's what this video is about. Um, there's a lot of debates about this within the martial arts community. Um, and I'll make some more separate videos regarding that. This is going to be a pretty heavily opinionated video, as these sorts of videos tend to be. So it's going to be fairly dogmatic in nature, just to let you guys know. Um, this is just my opinion, okay? But yeah, down here I've got 20 different martial arts, 20 different images, and they've all got interesting background and history. And I want to make some more detailed videos in the future, going into more depth with some of these. But for now, let's get into it. So starting off with the first one. Aikido. So we're using Steven Seagal for this image, the infamous actor. Aikido, no question. It's going to go straight into the punching bag too. No question. Um, I think it's completely useless. I mean, it's about redirecting attacks. Like, how are you going to redirect attacks? It doesn't make any sense. If a boxer throws a punch at you, are you going to be able to somehow magically redirect his attack back at him or something, or away from you? It doesn't make any sense. Plus, we don't see people doing that in any like combat sports or anything like tournaments like UFC, One Championship. You don't see people redirecting attacks, right? It's nonsense. Physics doesn't allow it to happen. Like, how are you gonna do that? It's not magic. So I think that's complete BS, and also I guess there are some good elements to it, like the joint locks and the footwork, but there are other martial arts that do that much better, and this is really is like out of all the out of the selections here like that we have, this has to be one of the worst for sure. If you do this, you're gonna get absolutely mopped. Like your your opponent's gonna mop the floor with you, and you are gonna get beaten. Your ass is gonna get beaten if you try and use Aikido on some dude on the streets. So no offense if you practice Aikido, but yeah, that's my opinion anyway. So next up we have Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, BJJ. Uh, let's see, Jiu-Jitsu. Oh man, it's got to go into one of these two tiers for sure, right? This is an elite sport, so and there's a reason why a lot of UFC fighters have it in their arsenal. Um, so I gotta put it here, man. God of War. Sorry, but you saw it coming. You saw it coming because this there's a reason why most UFC guys, most high level pro fighters or mixed martial artists use have jiu-jitsu or at least practice it to an extent because it's just that versatile. I mean, the Gracies knew what they were doing, right? They were almost unbeatable back in the day with this art alone. Back in the old UFC one days, like legit. It's one of the best grappling arts for sure. You got submissions, you got locks, you got throws. Uh, you have everything. So definitely it's gonna. It's definitely something you want to have in your repertoire for sure. Uh, it's just one of the. It's one of the best arts in my opinion. It has to go in God of War. It just has to. So yeah, Jiu-Jitsu, God of War. Come on, guys, you saw that coming. You saw that coming, right? It's obvious. It has to go either one of these two. Anyway, let's go on to the next one. Boxing. Uh, so boxing. Yeah. Okay. God of. Okay. Again, another really obvious one. I mean, it's got to go in one of these two. Like boxing is gonna. Boxing is I mean, like some of the toughest men in the world are boxers, and all they do is punch, right? So it's a very simple sport. It's a very simple art, the art of punching and throwing punches and defending yourself from punches, right? But that's the reason why it's so effective. It's simple, but it's absolutely brutal, right? I mean, all you need to know like to win a fight, 9 out of 10 times is have to throw a punch, and boxing does exactly that for you. And boxers are some of the best fighters in the world, like Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, George Foreman. I mean, don't Manny Pacquiao, all these legends. Like a good boxer, if you meet a good boxer on the streets, he's gonna beat the crap out of you, like no question. Okay, and like I said, because it's so simple and so realistic, that's the reason why it's so effective. Um, come on, you guys have to have boxing in your repertoire. You should have to, besides jiu-jitsu. If you combine these two, you're gonna be almost unbeatable, like, in my opinion. And if you combine these two both and train to a high level, then you're gonna be a absolute monster. So yeah, boxing belongs to the God of War category. Okay, it has to. Next up, we have, I think this is capoeira. Yeah, capoeira. Okay, so capoeira, it's one of those more like exotic sort of martial arts. think it originates in Brazil. Correct me if I'm wrong. Capoeira, when it comes to actually being an effective fighter, uh, I'm gonna put in the competitive fighting too. Um, Predominantly because I don't necessarily think it's that useful when you're actually getting into a fight with someone, but I think it's something's better than nothing. And capoeira it actually it still teaches you some things like like how to kick, how to how to like how to punch, how to elbow, slaps. There are some softer movements like takedowns, sweeps, leg sweeps in there. But as you can see from the image, maybe I'll actually do a video on this later in more detail. I think it's quite interesting, but I think as an effective fighting art, it's not really that useful compared to like the other ones. Um, it's not going to turn you into a monster or a god of war, in my opinion. It's more of a dance than it is an actual like fighting sport. So there's that. Um, I mean, it's good. Like it'll teach you some things like how to. It's definitely going to teach you how to fight better than the average person for sure. But I don't think it has quite the tools to make you a great fighter. So I'm gonna keep you. Yeah, I'll keep in this tip here. It's all right. Now we're doing I think that's judo, right? Yeah, that's judo. Judo, combat monster. Judo is underrated in my opinion. See, people heavily sleep on judo, but when it comes to actual real life situations, or actually like getting into a fight with someone, judo is so underrated and slept on because I mean like you're literally throwing people onto the ground, right? Like what else could you want? What more could you want to damage them? Like if you just grab someone and throw them, like they're finished. And I know it's easier said than done most of the time, but I feel like a skilled judoka can definitely be a big threat, right? Uh, it's not the best option for like grappling. Like there are other better grappling sports, but judo's definitely up there. And like I said, I think it's really slept on and like underrated. So like you know, I would say it's pretty effective. So like a lot of police forces, police officers use judo. There are some UFC fighters, pro fighters that do have judo as part of their MMA blend. In a 1v1 situation where there's like no weapons and no environmental factors, I think it's very effective. Um, Also, judo it gets you into like a really good shape and it really mentally toughens you, right? Like judokas are in amazing shape, so there's that. It's good, not the best, but it's good. The flaw that I see judo having is you see in the judoka they wear G's, right? So like these little like rope things, they're uniforms. And they how it works is they grab onto their clothes and use that to pull their opponent, like flip them over, like throw them. Now, what if you're up against someone that's like not wearing much like they're not very clothed basically. Like what if they're like half naked or something? Like, um, maybe they don't have long sleeves. Maybe they wear like a vest or something. What if they don't have much on? Right, like that could be a possibility. Like, then how are you gonna? Then judo loses a lot of its effectiveness. Okay, um, so I definitely see that as a flaw. So it's not the best, but I still think it's really good. And there are definitely it has its uses, right? For sure. I think if you get a little bit creative with it, then judo could be a really effective art. But otherwise, I'm gonna keep it down here. Next up, we have which one is this? I think it's is it karate? Yeah, yeah, it is karate. Yeah, karate. Um, another Japanese art. Okay. Uh, I know for a fact it's gonna go into one of these two tiers, but I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure where I'd put it because it's like just like judo, its uses, but less so. It's sort of like capoeira, like it's sort of like a rehearsal of movements. Like if you see karateka, or people that practice karate, like training, like you'll see them just doing all these like stances, and kind of like flowing into them seamlessly. It's more like it's like a dance, like a very static sort of dance. Um, it's not really that, it's not that useful for fighting, in my opinion, especially some of the techniques that are shown. But it can be useful. It can be. I mean, you definitely learn how to punch and kick really hard, right? And the conditioning that these guys do is no joke. Your fists and legs are going to be like bricks, and if someone hits you with those, like you're finished. So it's I want to say competent fighter, but then again, I know anecdotally a lot of karate dudes that cannot fight at all. When they get into a street fight with some guy, they just got knocked out and like steamrolled. Uh, it's realistically, I would. It's got to go into one of these two. I don't think it's that efficient. You know, I mean, certainly it can be effectively used for self-defense, but it's not an efficient way to train. If you want to become a good fighter, then there are better options out there. Okay, so I mean, uh, I'm a bit confused on this one, but bear in mind there are different variations of karate as well, like Goju-ryo, uh, Kyokushin. Then there's also like combat karate. So it all depends on how you train and spar. I'll give them a benefit of the doubt on a competitive fighter. I think you'll be a better fighter than the average person, but it's not going to be that effective. It's a it's a very watered down striking art, but it's got its uses here and there. So I'll put it in this too, right? Like you'll be like a mid to low competitive fighter, right? Okay. Now we're doing kickboxing. Kickboxing. Okay, so kickboxing. Combat monster. Yeah. So kickboxing is good. It's really good. Um, it's a really good striking art. It's definitely better than karate. It's more realistic and efficient than karate is. It's good. I like it. I don't really have much else to say on it. It's kind of bland, if I'm being honest, but it's a good sport. I mean, it's kind of a combat sport, isn't it? It's good to train in, and you're definitely gonna, if you train it to a high level, you're definitely gonna be a good fighter to the point where you can actually become a monster, right? Depending on how good you get. Um, the issue is that I feel like it's a bit. it's a bit more difficult to learn than boxing is, because boxing is just all about punching, right, and mastering how to throw a punch. But with kickboxing, you have like kicks and stuff. And here's the thing, with regards to kicks, that this is an opinion of mine, right? Uh, if you're gonna throw a kick in an actual fight, it's dangerous to do so. And in like the UFC, for example, you don't actually see a lot of guys using kicks. It's not, they punch way more than they kick. Why is that? Because if an opponent grabs your leg while you're kicking them, right, that puts you in a very vulnerable position. So if they grab your leg, they can get throw you on the floor and then just start get on top of you and just start pounding your face in. So giving your legs to the opponent is a really bad idea. You can throw you off balance. So because kickboxing incorporates kicks in, um, you would think that it's going to be better than boxing, but actually the reality is that actually makes it a weaker art than boxing. Funnily enough, if you get what I mean. So it's definitely, it can be very dangerous, right? Uh, but using kicks can be quite dangerous, and because you're focusing on learning how to kick and how to punch, you're not quite as masterful a puncher as a pure boxer would be. So so for those reasons, I'm not gonna put in the God of War category. It's gonna say Combat Monster, but I suppose if you combine kickboxing with something else, then like grappling, then you could become a God of War. But on its own, nah, it'll stay in the Combat Monster category. So it's very good, but a few minor flaws holding it back from reaching the ultimate S tier status. So that's kickboxing. Next up, Kung Fu. Okay, okay. I think if you ask the average person to name one martial art, they'll probably name Kung Fu because it's just that popular thanks to like Hollywood movies and stuff, and people like Jackie Chan and Jet Li sort of, you know, boosting his reputation. Um, Kung Fu, and you know, like in this picture, you can see the Shaolin monks. Uh, Kung Fu. Okay, so Kung Fu. Um, I'm kind of on the fence about this one. When I was younger, I used to think that Kung Fu was all the rage because of the movies that I used to watch. I'd see like Jackie Chan, Jet Li doing these crazy stunts. I was like, man, Kung Fu's unbeatable. They were literally like going up against people with weapons and stuff. And obviously now I know it's just like fiction. It's a movie. It's not real. In real life, Kung Fu isn't as effective because it's similar to Aikido. It can be quite unrealistic. It's not really a martial art that you would use to fight someone. Like that's not really the reason why it's been invented. Like it's more for like general like health and well-being. I'd say. Uh, Similar to karate, they do a lot of conditioning. That makes you very fit. It's sort of like a in a very unconventional sort of way. Like, but it's also kung fu has a lot of branches like tiger style, crane style, monkey style. So it's hard for me to class them like like it's hard for me to just put them into one category. To be honest, I do think kung fu is one of those arts that needs its own separate video. It's got a very long history and a rich culture. Uh, but I just don't know where to put it, to be honest. I don't think you're going to be a normie if you. I guess it depends on how long you train for, but I can't see these Shaolin monks being normies in fighting. I just can't. Like, their conditioning is insane, right? Like, that alone can make them so much better than the average person when it comes to a fight or a brawl. But on top of that, if they learn some of these, like, obscure techniques, right, they can actually catch people off guard. Um, I don't think it's that realistic, but it's hard to. I'll say you can be a combatant fighter. Okay, you can be like a mid-ranking combatant fighter if you're good enough at kung fu and know how to use it intelligently. So yeah. Next up we have Lethwei. Lethwei. Okay, this is a. I've got to make a video on Lethwei, man. I'm telling you, this is insane. These guys are. These guys are literally like crazy. Okay, these Lethwei warriors. Lethwei, I believe it's a Burmese bare knuckle boxing. It originated in Myanmar slash Burma, and not many people know about it, right? But this, I think it became very popular because of like King and Ashura, like Sopang, the character he uses Lethwei in the manga. Uh, but it's kind of like Muay Thai. The only difference is that whereas Muay Thai is called the art of the eight limbs, Lethwei is called the art of the nine limbs because the extra limb is your head. So it's like Muay Thai, but they use their heads, right? So they use headbutts basically, which makes it that much more brutal. Now, I'll be honest, this is gonna make you a badass fighter for sure. Yeah, you're gonna destroy people, but at the same time, because of its brutality, right? It's a double-edged sword, and you could end up injuring yourself in the process. I'm gonna make a separate video on this for sure. This is one of those that needs a separate video on it. Okay, so I'm gonna make a video on it, like, covering in more detail. But the Lethwei, I'm gonna put in the combat monster for now, because like I said, I feel like all those its sheer brutality can make you a very, very dangerous fighter, but it can also damage you in the process. Like headbutting people. If you want to give yourself brain damage and CTE, then sure. But I'll keep it here. But you're gonna be a high level combat monster, but you're also putting yourself at risk. And I think defense big is a big is a big part of being a good fighter. So that's why Lethwei. That's what's holding Lethwei back from God of War status. All right, but honestly, this is insane, man. This is some insane shit. I'm telling you, this is just it's an actual bloodbath. Oh my god, the people here are just like the Lethwei fighters. They're actual gladiators. They are real life modern gladiators. I mean, just look at the condition these guys are in. They're insane. You don't see guys like this in the UFC very often. But look at their physiques. I mean, their bodies speak volumes, right? Their bodies speak for themselves. But yeah, anyway, like I said, I'm gonna cover it more later. But for now, let's wait. Combat Monster. What's next? Okay, MMA. MMA. MMA is like kung fu. It's an umbrella term for a lot of martial arts, to be honest. Because so MMA is like all of these martial arts here put into one like sort of blend. Uh, and you know what? Because of that, because that's literally what MMA is, right? It's the most versatile sport because it's been the most versatile fighting sport because that was the purpose for its creation, right? So God of War, straight up, I'm not even being biased. I mean, I'm a big MMA fan, so like maybe there's a bit of bias there, but MMA, man, it's gotta go up here. Okay, it's if you do MMA, you can learn elements from jiu-jitsu, boxing, kickboxing, everything pretty much. So you become a very well-rounded fighter. So you can choke people out, take them down, grapple with them, um, strike them, like everything. So it's gotta go up here, right? One may argue that because you're learning all these you're kind of blending all these styles together, right? That means you're not necessarily going to be a master at any of them, but I mean, I digress. Like, its versatility is just too good to be overlooked. It's got to go in a God of War status. It has to, right? A good mixed martial arts could kill you, right? They are not meant to be messed with. So yeah, MMA is definitely gonna make you a God of War, right? Muay Thai, God of War. Oops. Yeah, and I'm biased, right? But you knew this was coming. Like God of War, like Jiu-Jitsu, boxing, MMA, Muay Thai. Like these are the most obvious ones. Like Muay Thai is left way, but better, right? Left is more brutal, but as I mentioned before, that's the reason why I put it down a peg. Muay Thai, you've got amazing defense in it as well, and you don't use your head, but um, it's still like really good. It's probably the most effective striking art, if I'm being honest. Um, Muay Thai fighters are absolute monsters. They're legends in combat. I mean, these guys are just. I love like how they've really focused on defense. There are some Muay Thai fighters that fight like K1 and other promotions who have wicked defense, and I think having good defense is a big component of being a good fighter, right? What's the point in fighting someone if you're gonna hurt yourself, right? Like you want to walk away from that um, encounter with like as little injury as possible. On top of that, you want to like you want to actually do some damage as well. So Muay Thai, it's got to go. It's for sure gonna make you a god of war. Okay, so Muay Thai is it's amazing for sure. Um, Sambo, Sambo, so it's a Russian combat sport, Soviet origins. Um, these guys, they're based like wrestlers in a sense, I think, but with a Russian twist to it. It's basically grappling art. Um, it's I mean, it's kind of like wrestling, I guess, with a bit of judo in, but it's definitely effective, right? It's definitely effective, I'd say. um, and I know in combat sambo, like there's like a variation of this, which is called combat sambo, where they actually use like they actually strike as well. So I'll put it I'll put it in combat monster. It's good, but I mean it's definitely good. It's a good art. It's gonna turn you into an absolute freak of nature. If you've practiced it for long enough. Uh, good ground game, good submissions. You also like throw people a lot in Zombo, so it's like a judo wrestling hybrid. So uh, it's hard to train because there aren't many places that train Zombo, and also it's quite expensive. But it's very good. It's great and effective. Um, I just don't think there's something holding it back um from being in God of War, but it's still very good. So it has to go in combat monster, and I would say you can become a high level combat monster with Sambo. Yeah. Sanda. So, Sanda is Chinese kickboxing, and in Sanda you can actually, it's not just kickboxing, it's kickboxing combined with a little bit of, it's kickboxing combined with a little bit of like grappling, like sweeps and takedowns and stuff, and like throws. So it's actually a bit more complete than kickboxing. See, we know kickboxing when I said oh, if you combine kickboxing with like a bit of grappling, then you can become a very complete fighter, right? That's essentially what Sanda. That's essentially what Sanda does for you. So in that sense, it's either going to go to one of these two categories here. Um, I'm just thinking, I can't put too many in the God of War. I mean, uh, there's literally like there's like four in God of War, and like only one. It's good. The best way for me to describe Santa is like Muay Thai, but with takedowns. So it's you can become a God of War if you get to a high level of Santa. Yeah. So it's not as popular as Muay Thai, obviously, but it's not as popular as of these other ones, but it has potential, in my opinion. So I'm gonna I'm gonna put this in God of War. All right. It just seems to be like a very complete art, in my opinion. Like I said, it's literally like kickboxing, but with a little bit of grappling involved, and that's literally all kickboxing needs to go from combat monster to God of War. So yeah. But I've got a lot of I've got five in God of War and four in combat monster, and like it's most of them ended up in God of War, but we've still got like six or seven left. So let's see where the rest of them end up. Okay, so Savate, Savate. This is Savate, a French striking art. It's like French kickboxing basically. It's a bit different. Like it's got a slight twist to it. Um, but yeah, it's essentially it's. This is also really good. Savate is also really good. So again, it's gonna go in one of these two. I don't think it's gonna be in God of War. I can't put every single art in God of War, right? Um, but uh, if you analyze it in a bit more detail, you're gonna have great footwork, great kicks, decent boxing. You're gonna learn how to counter, block, throw combos. Uh, but unlike Muay Thai, it doesn't allow knees and elbows, so I think that's kind of a flaw in Savate, and that's kind of what brings it down big. And there isn't much clinching either involved. Um, so I think it's a good choice. It's decent, and again, it's going to turn you into a combat monster if you keep at it for long enough. So Savate is going to go combat monster. There are actually a lot of good arts. There are a lot of good choices. Like if they belong to any of these two, yeah, then they're good. They're good because these are the top two tiers, right? The A and the S plus tier. So if your sport or art that you wish to train in is belongs to one of these two, then you're good, in my opinion. So yeah. So anyone in these two here, you're good. So let's see. Silat. This is this is Silat. It's in Southeast Asian martial art. I think it's from Indonesia. I think he's also practiced with like Malaysian stuff. This, if you've watched the movie Raid, one of the best movies ever, um, you'll know like this thing is it looks cool, right? It looks really cool. And what's interesting about this is it's quite unique in a sense because it's like Silat was like literally designed to be used on the streets and in like real life. Um, there's like everything. It's like a mix of everything. Like it's like a little bit of MMA. Like you got striking in there. You got like pressure point attacks. You got like like chokes, joint locks, like throws, stand up grappling, like decent ground game. Um, it's good. It's a very it's a good art for sure, right? Um, uh, it it builds your training, like it builds and trains your coordination to an extent, your body mechanics. It looks cool. I mean, it kind of looks flashy, similar to karate, I'd say. Uh, it's it's all right. I mean, it's it's gonna make you a decent fighter, I guess, right? Like you're gonna be able to put up a fight, but it's kind of impractical compared to more modern martial arts with realistic training. So the thing about this is that it trains you how to use weapons. So it doesn't encourage much sparring. So that's the issue. Um, like I guess if you're this is more like it's more to do with unarmed combat. So like if you don't have any weapons on you, then you're kind of screwed. Like I'm gonna put it in competitive fighter. Okay, I might be wrong. I might need to do a bit more research, but I don't think it lives up to its hype. To be honest, it looks deadly, but I don't think it's actually that deadly. So, in my opinion, but I'm gonna put Saba in competitive fighter. All right. So yeah, sumo. Okay, this one's funny. Sumo. Bro, sumo. You could. I would put sumo up here, right? But I'll tell you what. There's a huge issue with sumo. Um, if you're not a heavy person, right, you're not going to be very good at sumo. Like, you won't be able to use sumo effectively because to use sumo effectively, you have to be within a certain weight class, right? I guess if you practice sumo, then you're going to be trained to like get into that sort of shape, like these big guys, because sumo is all about using your weight as a weapon, right? And these guys are OP. These guys are OP. They will eat you for breakfast. They could literally pick off strongmen like Eddie Hall, throw him like a rock. No joke. Um, these guys could crush judokas, people that do jiu-jitsu, like wrestlers. I mean, because of their sheer size, right? But the issue is that not everyone that does sumo is going to get to that size. Like that's the thing. It's already only people that are really big. To do sumo, you have to like get really big, and not everyone has the capacity to get that huge, right? So that's the thing that kind of holds it back, in a sense. Um, it's and because of that reason, that's kind of what's holding it back quite a bit. I would say that like an actual like Also, I think one thing that needs to be mentioned is that sumo wrestlers aren't exactly healthy because of how heavy they are. They end up getting diabetes and hurting themselves in the process. Um, it's very underrated in my opinion as well. It's very underrated, but uh, I mean, because of the lack of weight classes, right? The wrestlers are forced to live an unhealthy lifestyle, and they end up getting, like I said, diabetes, knee injuries, back injuries. They have cardio problems. So, but I feel like an actual good like sumo wrestling champion, it could be a legit God of War, right? But not everyone's gonna be like that, and not everyone's gonna be able to to get to that level, like that weight class. And even if you do, it's not really healthy for you. So it's not really versatile in that sense. Like not everyone can do it. Uh, you can't just pick up sumo and just become like a sumo wrestling champion like that. It's the commitment it takes is insane. I think I'm gonna also have to make this for a video on sumo wrestling. Uh, but but I guess for the average person who won't be able to get that big, like to that size, it's just gonna make you a compared fighter because if you're just kind of a big bulky dude, not like these sumo guys who are like 300 pounds plus, right? But if you're just kind of like a typical big guy and you know a bit of sumo wrestling, so then you're gonna be a compared fighter, but you're not gonna necessarily be a combat monster or a god of war unless you manage to hit those extremely high weight classes. Only then do you enter these two categories. Otherwise, you're just going to be a compared fighter. And I think that's what the majority of people are like. They're just going to be. They're not going to get to those ridiculously high weight classes, are they? So yeah, it's very flawed. It's yeah. I'm just going to say compared fighter, right? but yeah, these guys are no joke, and these guys are very explosive, very scary. If I saw this dude running at me, I would shit my pants. But again, not everyone is able, has the frame or the height or the like the appetite sort of to get to this weight class. So I mean, I think sumo wrestlers are some of the toughest guys in the world, but it's unfortunate because not everyone's going to be able to get to that level, right? Like the average person is not going to be able to become a sumo wrestler like that. And again, it's not very healthy to maintain this sort of physique. So unfortunately, competition fighter for the average person, right? However, Yokozunas, sumo wrestling champions, like high level sumo practitioners, are straight up God of War beasts. Okay? If you get into a fight with a Yokozuna, right? Like the top of the top level when it comes to sumo, you're gonna get crushed. I don't care if you're a boxer, yeah, you do Muay Thai or Jiu Jitsu, I don't care, right? You are gonna get destroyed by these guys simply from the sheer size alone. But then the scary thing is that they're also super explosive, so they're gonna send you flying. They're gonna send multiple people flying. So these guys are no joke. Um, yeah. So, but because of the flaws that I spoke about before, that holds it back from being a God of War achievable for everyone. So it's just compare and fight it really for the average person. That is. I believe this is Taekwondo. So Taekwondo. Yeah, you compare and fight it. You're not going to be a combat monster or a God of War with that because it's mainly just focused on kicks, right? So kicking art. It's mainly it emphasizes kicks and very flashy kicks like rolling kicks, spinning kicks, flying kicks, as you can see here. Um, I've spoken before about how kicking isn't really a good idea in an actual fight because once your opponent grabs your legs, they can just throw you off balance, right? But Taekwondo focuses only on kicks, but it's not very complete. There's no punching, there's no grappling in it, so it's not that great. I mean, it has its uses, but again, like kicking someone is not a good idea. So, like, do not give your opponent your legs. Especially if you've got multiple dudes coming at you, you're not just gonna kick all of them. Like it's ridiculous. Are you really gonna kick someone? No, you're not gonna do that. It's not very efficient or practical. But something's better than nothing, so it's still gonna make you better than the average person, right? But nothing special. Okay, no disrespect. I think Taekwondo is really cool. Uh, but yeah, it's not viable necessarily. There are better options out there. Tai Chi, yeah, punching bag. I don't even know why I included it because it's not even a martial art. Like, I mean, it is a martial art, but it's not really intended for fighting because it's kind of like a very meditative sort of thing. Like, it helps you to breathe, relax, it improves your blood circulation, your mindset. It's sort of like meditation in a sense, but it's not really for fighting. I don't know why I threw that in. I just thought I might as well to make a full list. But yeah, it's not like it's not gonna make you a good fighter, right? It's got other purposes, great health benefits. It's got other uses, right? And I think every good fighter should practice Tai Chi to an extent. But for fighting, purely fighting, yeah, it's completely useless. And obviously, if you use Tai Chi on some dude on the streets, you're gonna get punched in the face and knocked out because you're not actually it's non-combative. Okay, so yeah, I'm not sure why I included it, but yeah, Tai Chi punching bag, Wing Chun, Wing Chun. Mm. Bruce Lee's master man was an expert in Wing Chun, and in this image you can see Wing Chun being taught to Bruce Lee by Ip Man. Um, the movies with Donnie Yen in them would have you think that Wing Chun is invincible, right? But it's not. And I actually think that, sorry, I actually think that what's going on? I actually think that's kind of it's just like Taekwondo is kind of impractical, but even less so because it has these weird like wacky techniques like trapping people's like arms and stuff, and I don't think it's very useful to be honest. They're not. It's not very realistic, and I think that's what Bruce Lee saw. Like, he saw massive weaknesses in Wing Chun, which is why he went off and made his own style. Um, it doesn't have many real world applications. Like you can't trap someone's hands like that, right? And then uh, even like in striking techniques, you don't generate much power compared to other martial arts. it's yeah, it's I'll look. It's either going to go into one of these two tiers, normally or punching bag. I don't quite think it deserves to be a punching bag, but I mean, um, thing is, I don't want to say it's going to make you a competent fighter. I don't really see much usage for it, but I mean, I guess you could be a normie in a sense, but I mean, it's just so unrealistic and wacky. I mean, it's straight up bullshit, though. Like all this trapping movements and stuff. It's not effective at all. Like no disrespect to Ip Man, he's a legend. Like no disrespect to him whatsoever. But if we're talking about the art, like just holistically looking at it, it's not very effective at all. It was so impractical. And like I said, Bruce Lee saw the weaknesses in it, so that's kind of why he abandoned it. It's it's too rigid and structured in my opinion. You need to be a bit more fluid, right? I think I'm gonna put in more meter. I'm sorry, but it's I I don't know. Like I might read you this tier list later on, but I just yeah I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep it normie tier for now. People might disagree, but yeah, that's just my opinion for now anyway. Last but not least, wrestling. You know where this is gonna go. You know where this is gonna go. There's only one place where this can go. God of War. Oh my god, we have one, two, three, four. Wait, we have six in God of War, right? One, two. Yeah. Damn. Wrestling is extremely effective. Okay. I mean, straight up. Wrestling, I mean, it was kind of obvious where this was gonna go. So, yeah, the ultimate grappling art. You got takedowns, you got sweeps, you got throws. It's wrestlers are absolute freaks of nature, right? Um, you just gotta have some wrestling in there, in my opinion. You got good takedown defense, everything. Like, I mean, just look at these guys, man. I mean, is there any question? Like, these guys are straight up God of Wars themselves. I mean, come on. So that's my that's my tier list. Uh, I actually ended up having a lot of good. I had a good selection because look at how many God of War choices there are. There are six. There are five. It's like I said a while ago during the video. If you do an art that's in any one of these two, the top two, then you're good, right? Even better if you combine some of them, right? That's even better, right? So you're good, okay? Um, competitive fighter, like you're not bad if you do these, but I mean, hey, like something's better than nothing. You're still gonna be better than an average person, but not too great. Normie, yeah, you just average, you can't fight. So only one ended up in Normie, and that's Wing Chun. Controversial opinion, maybe. Kind of makes sense because I mean, something's better than nothing, right? So it makes sense that not too many martial arts would end up in the Normie tier, but I just kind of put Wing Chun in there just for filler reasons. I mean, plus it doesn't seem very practical anyway. So yeah, whatever. I mean, I had to put something in Normie tier. I decided Wing Chun that to be the punching bag. These two, right? No, it's pretty obvious that these two are gonna end up here. So yeah, that's the video. I'll see you guys in the next one.